Okay, welcome. This is video 3 for chapter 12. In this lab, or in this video, we're going to go over the lab, logging into NetLabs, and then installing our first Windows 10 virtual machine. So first off, you would go to netlab04.tccd.edu. And there you would then enter your username and password, and you would log in to NetLabs. So NetLabs is an online system that allows us to utilize virtual machines utilizing VMware. So what we're going to do is a new lab reservation. Right? You're going to schedule a lab for yourself. Hopefully you only see one class available, so the general class, and then ITSC 1305 for Spicer, and we want the workstation lab. The Active Directory lab we'll do later, but for this initial lab we're going to do workstation installation, and so we're going to work in the workstation lab. You want to go ahead and schedule it. See here. So you basically you can pick a time or pick right at the line, so it goes now, and then adjust it. You're going to want probably 2 hours in the lab, but you can choose for however long you want. You can return the time if you're not done. Don't worry, you don't get billed for it or anything. But you want at least to have enough time to be able to do the lab. And now we've got the reservation, and so now you'll see that, oh, here I can go into the lab. You've been assigned your pod, and then we'll go into the lab. If it doesn't automatically turn on, you can go and turn it on. You can undock it and pull it out, adjust the size. But basically, we'll just wait for this to start up, and it's starting up our machine in VMware. It's a virtual machine, but it is a real machine. We can do everything on this that we could on a normal machine. The only issue is NetLabs, we don't have internet access, we don't have network access outside, so the machine is just a local standalone machine. Everything we need is on the machine, so we're okay. So this is VMware, so we'll launch VMware. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a virtual machine on this virtual machine. It's not going to run that well because it's a virtual machine inside a virtual machine on a physical machine. So we're extrapolating and going down further, so it's not going to run that well, but it will run. We're going to choose our typical installation. Later we'll go into a customized installation. But for what we're doing, a typical is more than fine. So if the disk image is not selected when you get here, you can browse for it. It's going to be on our V drive in the ISOs folders, and it's going to be the Windows. We're going to install Windows this time. Eventually we'll install a Linux, Ubuntu, but this time we're going to install Windows. So you want to select the Windows image, or the ISO image. And then so this should say v:/ISOs/Windows 10-1909, right? And ISO. And then our name for this is going to be VM1. That's what we're going to name our machine. So VM1 is the name of our machine. We go next. 60 gigs is more than enough space. We could actually lower it, but we'll just leave it Go ahead and leave it at split. It just means that as you use space on the VM, it'll create different files instead of one single file. And either way is fine for what we're doing. It's not going to matter. So just go next. Now we could customize the hardware, right? So there's things where we could adjust the memory, the number of processors, how many network cards. We could add more DVDs or network cards, things like that. And we could give it more memory or processors. Don't do that because it's already running very thin. And so you're going to want to leave them at the defaults so that you can run all the labs and everything that we're wanting to do in here. So please leave them at the defaults. You can change it at any time, but I would recommend do not change the defaults. So we'll go ahead and we'll do finish. And so now it's going to create our virtual machine. And we told it to use the Windows ISO as the DVD. And so when it creates this virtual machine, it's going to create it with the ISO in the DVD player of the computer. And so when it starts up, we just have to hit a key to tell it to boot off the DVD. And then once it does that, it will install. So we just got to wait for it to create the machine. Right now it's creating the files that are needed to emulate and simulate a virtual machine. And so once it's done creating the machine, it'll start the machine. And once it starts, then like I say, there's something we have to do fairly quickly in order for us to boot from the Windows DVD, which is what we want. And then once we get the installation started, I'll pause the video because it will take quite a long time and several reboots for Windows to actually install. And then I'll restart the video once it starts asking questions. But just know that this installation will take some time. It's going to spin for possibly 30-40 minutes or more. So don't worry. Just let it go. Let it do its thing. And eventually it'll get to the point where it'll ask you questions about the installation. But just know that it will take a little time. So now we're almost done. It's there it goes. Now it's going to start the machine, and there it starts. And then so I'm just going to click here in the black area. And so now I have control in there. So now when it says to hit any key, which is right now, hit any key to boot from CD or DVD, and then you should get this window screen come up. To release your mouse, you hit Control-Alt, and then you get your mouse back. But now it's going to install Windows now, and this is going to take a long time. Now you see that it just started to spin up, and so don't worry. See, and then see at the bottom here, press Control-Alt to release the mouse cursor. So just make sure if you want your mouse, sometimes it gets stuck in the VM, and you can hit Control-Alt to release your mouse. But I'm going to pause the video here because this is going to take an awful long time to install, and you're not going to want to watch this spin on my machine. So I'm going to stop the recording here, and then I will pick it up once all right. I forgot. All right, so we'll hit next and then install now. So you could also repair your computer or get to some advanced troubleshooting prompts, but we want to install now. All right, so now we've got the system installation going. It's going to take some time, and I will come back once it starts asking us some questions, and we'll continue the install from there. Okay, it wasn't too far. It's asking for a product key. Just select I don't have a product key. We'll enter in the product key and activate Windows later, but just say I don't have a product key. We're going to select Windows 10 Pro. That's fine. Click Next. Click Accept and Next. We don't have Windows installed already, so we can't do an upgrade. So we're going to do a custom install. We're going to use all the disk space on the drive that we have. We could just use part of it if we were doing a multi-boot. We could split this and change the size, and do a new disk size, right? And then tell it how much of the disk, say like 30 of it, and then apply. But we're not doing that. We're going to do the whole allocated space. So we'll say next. Okay, this is where it's going to take some time to copy the files over. And wow, for us, this was when I tested this out, this did not go that fast earlier. So let's just hang out for a little bit and let's just see if this installs faster. Maybe it's because I've done it one time already, and because when I did it to test this environment out, it took over a half an hour to do this. So maybe since it's already been done once, it's okay. All right, so it does look like it's going to take some time to process this, even though it at least saves some time copying the files. So I'm going to pause this video and then start it back up once we get to some questions. So what's going to happen here is it's going to copy files, and then now it's going through the files. It's going to install all the features, the updates. It's going to finish up. It's going to reboot a couple times and do some configurations, and then it'll ask us some questions. But I'm going to pause the video right now. Okay, so we finally got the installation to where it's asking us questions. So we're going to be in the United States, so we're going to click yes. And we're going to do the US keyboard layout. And we're going to skip adding any additional keyboard layouts. Now here, we don't have internet access or network access because we're in NetLab. So we're going to select I don't have internet. Normally that's where you would check and select your wireless or your network. We're going to continue with limited setup because they're trying to make us connect to the internet, which would be better, and I agreed it will be better, but we don't have access because we're in the NetLab environment. So we're going to continue with limited connectivity. Now we're going to create a student account. With password of password, all lowercase. Right, so password, all lowercase. And we'll confirm its password, all lowercase. Now, security question 1, we're going to just do password. Oh, we got to choose a question. Just choose any question and put the answer as password. Choose any question. Put password. Choose any question. And answer is password. Please make sure you use password for all the passwords and password hints. That way you won't be able to get locked out, right? So we're not going to activate history, so we're going to say no. We're going to decline the digital assistance. We don't need that. We already have a resource intensive already as it is, so we don't need to add anything else running on here. And we're going to say no to all these questions because we don't need a location, diagnostic data, inking and typing, or tailored experience, right? This is our lab, definitely advertising IDs. We'll say all no to all this and then say okay. Alright, and now it's preparing us for our desktop for the first time use. I'm going to just pause this video here, mainly because I have a class that's going to be starting, and so I need to join on with my class, but I'm going to give this a little while to run. So I'll restart the video once the desktop appears. Okay, so finally we have a working Windows machine within our virtual machine. So we have the virtual machine running within a virtual machine. So what I'm going to do is I like to put some desktop icons on. So I go to right click on the desktop, go to personalize, and then themes. Now then scroll down, and then you find this related settings, desktop icon settings. Click on that, and I just enable all of them and put them on the desktop. It just makes it easier to find things and access things, in my opinion. And then I'll just do sort by type, item type, right click, sort by item type. And so now we've got them in fairly good order. You can get your documents, this PC, you can get to the drives. Control panel is down here. Well, we'll use that. So one thing we do want to do, since it doesn't look like it was automatic, so we want to install tools, the VMware tools. So one thing is if your mouse ever gets locked in here, you can hit Control Alt to free your mouse up. But so we hit the install tools. Let's go see. Go open up our drive here. All right, oh, got it open a few times. Let's go to this PC. And now in our DVD, we have VMware tools, right? These are the tools we need to install. So there should be, hopefully it went installed automatically, but if not, it should say install tools. And then once you've hit the install tools, then the DVD becomes available. And then, so we'll double click on the DVD. And this is a user access control prompt. See this user account control, right? So this is saying you're doing something that requires admin or elevated permissions. We're going to say yes to that. If we did not have admin account rights, it would have prompted us for an account and password that did have those rights. But since we have admin rights, because we're the only account on this machine, it gave us a yes or no question. Or, do we want to do this administrative function? That's part of the user access control, because we're an administrator on this computer. All right, so now we've got the VMware tools installed. And we've got our desktop icons. Well, okay, I guess we still haven't installed it. I forget this is lower than normal. So we want to go next. We want typical is fine. And install. So while that's installing, I'm just going to close that. I am going to remove Edge from the tool taskbar. This is the taskbar. I'm going to unpin it because we don't have internet access, so we really don't need it, and we definitely don't need the store because we can't get to it either, and we can't do email. So I'm going to remove that from here as well. So what we're doing is these VMware tools help virtualize this virtual machine on our system, and it gives you better mouse controls, better video controls, things of that nature. That's why it's flickering right now. It's installing those drivers, the software needed to run this at optimal performance mode. Probably won't gain us a whole lot since we're a VM within a VM, but it definitely does make a difference when you're on a physical machine doing this. But I wanted you to get used to at least doing this with your VMs. And so now it says that we need to restart our virtual machine, so this VM1 that we created. So we'll restart it. and we can minimize VMware, right? So you can see that I'm still on the workstation that we logged into originally. The virtual machine though lives in VMware, where it's restarting, right? So even though that's restarting, I still have full access down here to my other machine while it's restarting. Um, and once again, if I lose control, I hit Control Alt, right? And I'll get my mouse back. Um, so this is restarting. And so after that, really, that's it for this part of the lab. We'll go into finishing the rest of the chapter 12 lecture now that we have this VM. But this video is getting long enough as it is, and I'm running out of time on my lab checkout. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to return the reservation, and but first I'm going to hopefully shut this down after it starts, because I don't want to delete it or turn it off while it's rebooting here. Okay, so now we have it up. It's just password is the login. Okay, so we've got it back up. I can't seem to get the start menu to pull up. And it's still thinking. Okay, that's why. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and shut down this machine. We're going to shut it down. Alright, so it's shut down. I'm going to close VMware. I can power off the workstation, and then I can go and I'm going to end the reservation now. So here's on the reservation. I could have requested more time, change exercises, or whatever, but I'm going to end the reservation. And so now my clock goes to 0. I don't have the lab checked out anymore. And that's all I have for this video. Like I said, in the next video we'll continue on with chapter 12 now that we have our virtual machine.